Alfred Jodl is known as the general who signed Nazi Germany's surrender. However, his story extends far beyond this iconic moment. The rise of a military genius, the devastation of war, and the subsequent trials. All these elements are part of Jodl's complex life story. Born on May 10, 1890, in Würzburg, Bavaria, Alfred Joseph Ferdinand Jodl grew up in a family with a military tradition. His father, Johann Jodl, was an officer in the Bavarian army, and his mother, Therese Baumgartler, came from a devout Catholic family. Alfred spent his childhood in a disciplined environment, which later guided his future military career. Alfred Jodl served as an artillery officer in the Bavarian Royal Army during World War I. The devastation of the war left deep scars on the young officer. On the front lines, he walked the fine line between life and death. He felt the cost of survival in these harsh duties within his soul and faced the ruthless face of war. Jodl received education in military sciences, strategy, and artillery at the University of Munich. He began his military career by joining the Bavarian Royal Army in 1910. During World War I, while serving as an artillery officer on various fronts, he gained profound experiences regarding the devastation of war and its effects on soldiers. At the end of the war, despite the restrictions imposed by the Treaty of Versailles following Germany's defeat, he managed to remain in the army. The rise to power of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party in 1933 marked a turning point in Jodl's career. Hitler was determined to rebuild Germany's military strength, and Jodl became an integral part of this process. In 1935, he was appointed to the General Staff, where he began serving the Nazi regime in military planning and strategy. Due to his loyalty to Hitler and military discipline, Jodl rose to become one of Nazi Germany's top military leaders. Jodl was deeply committed to Nazi ideology. His loyalty to Hitler elevated him to one of the highest-ranking military leaders in Nazi Germany. However, this allegiance led him to play a crucial role in the perpetration of inhumane crimes. This close association with the Nazi regime ultimately resulted in Jodl being remembered by history as a negative figure. With the outbreak of World War II, Jodl was at the center of Nazi Germany's military operations. In 1939, during the invasion of Poland, he was one of the key figures overseeing military planning. This success made him an even more significant figure in Hitler's eyes. In 1940, he played a major role in the attacks on Western Europe, particularly in the invasion of France. The fall of France marked a turning point in Jodl's military career, once again proving his strategic capabilities. In 1941, Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union, became Jodl's greatest test. This operation went down in history as Nazi Germany's largest military endeavor. Jodl planned the attack strategies for the German army in this operation. However, the failure to achieve the expected swift victory in the Soviet Union and the harsh winter conditions led to the operation's failure. This failure altered the course of the war and marked a negative turning point in Jodl's career. Jodl was one of the key figures behind the brutal warfare tactics implemented by Nazi Germany in the occupied territories. He particularly advocated for harsh measures against partisan movements in the Soviet Union. Jodl supported massacres of civilians and forced relocations. Notably, through orders like the Commissar Order, he authorized the execution of Soviet political commissars and partisans. Such actions directly linked Jodl to war crimes and crimes against humanity. By 1944, the Allied forces were closing in on Germany from all sides. The war was rapidly turning against Nazi Germany. However, Jodl remained loyal to Hitler until the very end. In 1945, following the fall of Berlin and Hitler's suicide, Jodl was tasked with overseeing Germany's surrender. On May 7, 1945, he signed the unconditional surrender document in Reims, France. This signature officially marked the end of the war in Europe and cemented Jodl's place in history as the general who signed Germany's surrender. On May 7, 1945, Jodl made history by signing Germany's unconditional surrender. This moment was a significant turning point in both German and world history. However, Jodl's name will be remembered for much more than just this act of surrender. After the war ended, Alfred Jodl was tried at the Nuremberg International Military Tribunal on charges of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and waging wars of aggression. During the trials, Jodl defended himself by claiming that he was merely following orders and had not personally committed any crimes. However, the court rejected this defense, finding Jodl guilty of war crimes and sentencing him to death. He was executed by hanging on October 16, 1946. Despite his family's efforts to restore his reputation after his death, these attempts were unsuccessful. Jodl was recognized as an exceptionally skilled officer in military strategy and operational planning. He was a cool-headed, disciplined, and determined leader. However, he used these talents in service of the ruthless policies of the Nazi regime. His loyalty to Hitler blinded him to moral and ethical values. Jodl became a figure who unquestioningly executed orders, representing the dark side of the Nazi regime. Jodl was deeply committed to Nazi ideology. His loyalty to Hitler elevated him to one of the highest-ranking military leaders of the Nazi regime. However, this loyalty led him to play a pivotal role in the commission of inhumane crimes. This close association with the Nazi regime ultimately caused Jodl to be remembered by history as a negative figure. Alfred Jodl went down in history as one of the most significant and controversial military figures of World War II. His contribution to the war crimes committed by Nazi Germany overshadowed his legacy. Known as the general who signed Germany's surrender, Jodl, despite being a skilled soldier, became synonymous with crimes against humanity. History remembers Jodl as a figure representing the dark side of the Nazi regime. Although Alfred Jodl's life was marked by military achievements and skills, it presents a story deeply tarnished by the crimes committed by Nazi Germany. His signing of Germany's surrender remains a symbol of his tragic fate. Jodl is remembered in the dark pages of history as one of those responsible for crimes against humanity. His legacy is intertwined with the destructive impacts of the war and the horrors of the Nazi regime.